My mother built a prison of silence around me, brick by invisible brick. She claimed she had something called hyperacusis, a condition where everyday sounds felt like physical pain. My first real memory, the one that's burned into the back of my eyelids, is from when I was 5. I'd tripped on the porch steps, a stupid kid fall, and was wailing my head off. Instead of a hug, she grabbed a greasy rag from the sink and shoved it into my mouth, her eyes wild. "The sound," she hissed. "It's like knives in my ears." If I snored, I'd be jolted awake by a shrieking boat horn she kept by her bed, a Pavlovian punishment for breathing too loudly in my sleep. It was, she explained calmly the next day, negative reinforcement to help me correct my disruptive behaviors. For my 8th birthday, she gave me a present. It was a laminated chart she'd designed on her computer, titled Leo's Serenity Credits. The grid was empty. For weeks, I'd been seeing her stick little price tags on everything in the pantry and fridge. A slice of bread was 2 credits, an apple was 4, a single chicken nugget was 10. You earned credits by being quiet. The harder it was to be quiet, the more credits you earned. Not slamming the door was 1 credit. Taking a shower without splashing was 5. A whole night of not snoring was worth a whopping 15. The system was airtight. She could never take credits away, but I had to spend them to eat. It was a closed economy of hunger and silence. I was just a kid with big, stupidly hopeful eyes who still thought his mom hung the moon, so I just nodded and gave her a hug, making sure not to let out a happy sigh that might cost me breakfast. I was already used to living like a ghost in my own house, so I didn't think it would change much. The next morning, I woke up and went through my silent routine. I peeled back my blankets 1 thread at a time. I got dressed in the school bathroom to avoid the sound of zippers and buttons at home. I walked on the edges of the floorboards I knew didn't creak. Apparently, my performance was stellar. When I got home, she handed me the chart. In her neat looping handwriting, she'd written 45 credits. Surrounded by little stars, she opened the fridge, gesturing like a game show host presenting the grand prize. "Your choice for dinner, sweetheart. You've earned it." I could afford almost anything, except for the fancy mint chocolate chip ice cream in the freezer. I picked the pork chops, my absolute favorite. We were going to be a normal family, I thought. Of course we weren't. She cooked them until they were tough as shoe leather. I knew why. Chewing sounds were her ultimate trigger. I tried to eat, I really did. I chewed with my mouth clamped shut, trying to generate enough saliva to break down the meat without making a single squelch. 5 minutes into wrestling with 1 bite, my jaw ached. I couldn't do it. I discreetly spat the mangled piece of pork into my napkin, figuring I'd just go hungry. That wasn't good enough. "What are you doing?" she snapped, her voice low and dangerous. "An animal died for your dinner. The least you can do is show it some respect. Put it back in your mouth. Now." My small hands trembled as I unfolded the napkin and pushed the cold, chewed-up meat back onto my tongue. On the way in, my mouth was open, and my tongue made a wet, sticky sound against the roof of my mouth. A tiny smack. The world stopped. The air in the room went cold and still. She slammed both fists on the table, rattling the plates. "You disgusting little animal!" she shrieked, the sound so loud it felt like it was tearing through the quiet she supposedly craved. She snatched the Serenity Credits chart off the fridge and lit the corner on the gas stove, holding it until the flames licked at her fingers. "You think I can't make you feel what I feel? You think this is a game?" She grabbed my wrist and dragged me toward the stove, her fingers digging into my skin. She made me hold an ice cube from the freezer, forcing my fingers to close around it. "The pain," she whispered, her face inches from mine. "That burning cold? That's not even a tenth of what your noises do to me. Remember that." I didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, or because I wasn't terrified. I wanted to howl, but I knew that the sound of my own tears would only make it worse. I held the ice until it was just a puddle in my palm, my fingers numb and white. Then I crept to my room and had nothing for dinner, nothing for breakfast, nothing for lunch. The pork chop incident had put me deep into credit debt. My mother wasn't the kind of abuser who'd let you starve to death, just enough to not raise alarms. But after 3 days of living on tap water, I miscalculated. I fainted during morning assembly at school. It was only for a few seconds, but the first thing I remember saying when I came to was, "I'm sorry. I fell too loudly. Please don't take my food away." The school counselor, Mrs. Albright, pulled me into her office so fast I felt the air shift. She gave me a granola bar, a banana, and a small carton of chocolate milk. I devoured them like a wolf, barely breathing, choking on my own haste. When I looked up, her face was ghost white, and her eyes were swimming with tears. She didn't ask any more questions. Her hand was shaking as she picked up her phone. "Yes, this is Diane Albright at Cypress Creek Elementary. I need to report a suspected case of severe child abuse and neglect." Each digit she dialed felt like a hammer blow against my chest. She gave them my name, my mother's name, our address. Each detail felt like she was building a cage around me, but I didn't know if it was to protect me or trap me. While she was on the phone, I sat perfectly still. My body had learned that lesson better than any other. Movement makes noise, and noise means pain. Even with a full stomach for the first time in days, the instinct was absolute. I counted my breaths, making sure the air didn't whistle in my nose. Mrs. Albright hung up. "Leo, some people are going to come here to talk to you. They just want to make sure you're okay." She pulled her chair closer, and the scrape of its legs against the linoleum made me flinch so hard I almost fell off my own chair. "Can you tell me more about what happens at home?" The words felt too big, too loud for my mouth. "My mom has hyperacusis," I whispered. "Sounds hurt her, so I have to be quiet." "And the food?" "Tell me about the food." I explained the Serenity Credit system, how I had to earn the right to eat eat, how the pork chop sound sent me into debt. Mrs. Albright's expression grew darker with every word. She made me put the chewed meat back in my mouth, I added, the memory making my stomach churn. And she made me hold ice until my fingers burned, because she said that's what my noises feel like to her. She wrote everything down, her pen flying across a notepad. How long has this been going on? The credit system started on my birthday. But the quiet, I tried to think back. Always. She put a dish rag in my mouth for crying when I was 5. The principal, Mr. Davison, came in with 2 strangers, a woman with short, practical gray hair, and a younger man holding a clipboard. This is Miss Garcia from Child Protective Services, the principal said. And this is Mr. Cole. They're here to help. Miss Garcia sat down. Hi, Leo. I know this must be scary. Can you just tell us what happened today? I told the story again. Each retelling made it feel more real and more dangerous. They asked if I had bruises. I didn't, not visible ones. They asked how often I ate. It depends on my credits. Did anyone else know? No one. We're going to have to go to your house, Ms. Garcia said gently. We need to talk to your mom and see where you live. But first, the nurse is going to check you out. The walk to the nurse's office was the longest walk of my life. Nurse Jacobs weighed me. 68 pounds, she said, her brow furrowed. That's severely underweight for a boy your age. She took my blood pressure, listened to my heart, looked in my throat. Every instruction required me to breathe or move in a way that made a sound, and I kept apologizing. Honey, you never have to apologize for breathing, she said, but it was a reflex I couldn't stop. She documented my protruding ribs, the dark hollows under my eyes, the way I flinched every time she rustled a paper. When was the last time you ate a full meal before today? She asked. 3 days ago. Pork chops, but I couldn't chew them quietly enough. She and Ms. Garcia exchanged a look. We need to take him to the hospital for a full evaluation. No. The word burst out of me, louder than anything I'd said in years. My mom will know. She'll know I told. She'll know I made noise. Your mother is going to be contacted either way, Ms. Garcia said. But you will not be going home tonight. You're safe now. I didn't feel safe. I felt like I'd just lit a match in a house made of gasoline. My breathing got fast and loud. A panicked wheezing I couldn't control. My heart hammered against my ribs, the loudest sound in the world. Just then, the principal's phone rang. Yes, Mrs. Chen is here. I see. I'll let them know. He hung up. Your mother is in the front office. She's demanding to take you home. They moved me into a small conference room. I could hear her voice through the door, that smooth, sweet tone she used for strangers. I'm sure it's just a big misunderstanding. Leo has such a vivid imagination. Mrs. Chen, I'm Ms. Garcia with CPS. We need to speak with you. Concerns? This is absurd. My son has some behavioral issues we're addressing. He's in therapy for his attention seeking. I wanted to scream that it was all lies, but my throat was closed tight. Through the door, I heard her explain her hyperacusis, how debilitating it was, how she was doing her best as a single mother with a disability. We'll need to visit your home, Ms. Garcia said, and speak with Leo's therapist. Of course. You'll see. Everything is perfectly normal. In fact, I went grocery shopping this morning. The kitchen is fully stocked. My stomach dropped. She knew. She was always one step ahead. Hours later, Ms. Garcia came back, her face a careful blank mask. We went to your home, Leo. Your mother showed us a full kitchen. Your room was clean. Everything looked fine. My chest tightened. The chart. The Serenity credits chart on the fridge. We didn't see a chart. She said she uses a standard star chart for chores. No, it was there, with all the price tags on the food. But even as I said it, I knew it was all gone. We're going to keep investigating, Ms. Garcia promised. But for tonight, legally, without immediate evidence of physical abuse, I can't remove you. You'll have to go home. We'll be back tomorrow for a follow-up. They were sending me back, the principal argued, pointing out that I'd fainted from hunger, that the nurse documented my malnourishment. She showed us medical records, Ms. Garcia said, her voice strained, for an eating disorder. She says she's been trying to get him help for months, but he refuses to eat. The drive home was a tomb of silence. She didn't say a word until we were in the driveway. You've made things very, very difficult, she said, her voice like splintered ice. But I have a solution. Inside, the kitchen was a picture of suburban normality. But in my room, a box sat on my bed. Inside were a pair of noise-canceling headphones and a white noise machine. Your new therapist, Dr. Finch, recommended these, she said, though I knew I'd never met a Dr. Finch, for your sensory integration disorder. Doctor's orders. You'll wear them whenever you're home, except for meals. She put them over my ears and flipped a switch. The world dissolved into a roaring hiss, like a waterfall inside my skull. I couldn't hear my own feet on the carpet. I couldn't hear if she was behind me. All I could hear was static. I tore them off. I can't put them back on. Her scream was so sharp it cut through the ringing in my ears. She held up a piece of paper. It looked like a doctor's prescription pad. If you don't follow the prescribed treatment, it's medical non-compliance. That won't look good for your friends at CPS, will it? The headphones went back on. I watched her lips move, but the static consumed the sound. The world became a silent movie. For dinner, she would tap my shoulder. I'd take the headphones off and we would eat in silence. She kept the fridge stocked now, but the quiet was heavier, more suffocating than the hunger had ever been. CPS is coming back tomorrow, she said one night. You will tell them the headphones are helping. You will tell them you feel much better. You will tell them everything is fine. What choice did I have? I nodded. That night I had to sleep with them on. The rushing sound made it impossible to know if she was in the room, watching me. I lay there, rigid, afraid to move, afraid to make a sound I couldn't even hear myself. At school the next day, the world of sound rushed back in, overwhelming and sharp. Mrs. Albright pulled me aside. How was it? She asked, her voice low. I wanted to tell her about the headphones, the fake doctor, the new cage of white noise, but I knew my mother would have a story for that too. She has food in the house now, was all I could manage. But something is still wrong, isn't it? Mrs. Albright pressed. I just nodded, tears pricking my eyes. She has these headphones. Before I could explain, my mother was standing in the classroom doorway, holding a manila folder, smiling her bright, false smile. So sorry to interrupt. Just dropping off some medical documentation for Leo's file. My blood ran cold. She handed the folder to Mrs. Albright. His new specialist, Dr. Finch, feels it's crucial that all his teachers are aware of his treatment plan for his sensory integration disorder. I watched them through the small window in the door. My mother gestured, explained, pointed to charts in the folder. Mrs. Albright listened, her face a mixture of concern and confusion, but ultimately she was being convinced. When she came back in, the certainty in her eyes had been replaced by doubt. Your mother showed me the treatment plan from Dr. Finch, she said carefully. It seems very thorough. There is no Dr. Finch, I whispered. Her face grew complicated. Leo, she has official letterhead. Detailed session notes. She said that denying your treatment is a symptom of your condition. The trap was perfect. Days blurred into a routine of static and silence at home, and fear at school. My mother started volunteering in the school office, a constant smiling presence. Every word I might speak, she'd know. Then a new substitute teacher started showing up, Miss Soto. She was young, with sharp, observant eyes that seemed to miss nothing. One day she was subbing for my English class. Out of sheer desperate boredom, I started tapping my pencil on the desk. A pattern from an old war movie. Short taps, long taps. Miss Soto, writing on the board, froze. She turned slowly, her eyes locking onto mine. A flicker of something, recognition, crossed her face before she turned back to the board. After class, she asked me to stay behind. She wrote on a piece of scrap paper, "Are you okay?" My hand was shaking so badly I could barely hold the pencil. Instead of writing, I tapped 3 short, 3 long, 3 short, SOS. Her face went pale. She wrote again. Who? I glanced at the door, then tapped out MOM on the desk. Her jaw tightened. I will help, she wrote. Act normal. For the first time in forever, I felt a sliver of hope. But hope was a dangerous thing in my mother's house. That night, she was different. Watchful. Interesting day at school? She asked casually over dinner. I shook my head. That Miss Soto seems nice, she continued, her voice light. A bit of a bleeding heart, though. Heard she might be transferring soon. Pity. She knew. She always knew. The next day, Miss Soto was gone. A week later, she was back, subbing for art. She wouldn't look at me. Tucked under my paint set was a small, folded note. I opened it under the table. She came to my apartment. She knows where I live. I'm so sorry. I crumpled it in my fist. Even she was powerless. The white noise and the isolation started to take their toll. I was disoriented. My grades slipped. My mother, of course, had an explanation. It was an adjustment period to my new, more aggressive therapy. She enrolled us in family counseling with the esteemed Dr. Finch himself. In our first session, I tried. She makes me wear headphones all day. I can't hear anything. Dr. Finch, a man with a soft voice and cold eyes, nodded thoughtfully. And why do you think your mother implements this treatment, Leo? It's not treatment. She just doesn't want me to exist. My mother started to cry, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. You see, doctor? This is the aggression I face every day. I see, Dr. Finch said, making a note. Children with oppositional defiant disorder often reject the structures that are meant to help them. He diagnosed me on the spot. She started bringing evidence to our sessions. Audio recordings of me supposedly screaming and slamming doors, sounds I never made. They were edited, pieced together, but they sounded real. Dr. Finch ate it up, prescribing medications that left me in a fog, recommending stricter controls at home. The pills made the world feel like it was wrapped in gauze. The white noise and the medication created a sensory deprivation chamber I was forced to live in. She installed cameras in my room, for my safety, she told Dr. Finch. One morning, the medication hit me harder than usual. I was so dizzy I collapsed on the track during PE. I woke up in the nurse's office. Your blood pressure is dangerously low, Nurse Jacobs said. What medications are you on? My mother arrived in minutes, handing over a typed list. The doses seem very high for a child, Nurse Jacobs noted. Dr. Finch is a specialist, my mother said smoothly. You should call him. Nurse Jacobs did, and I heard her side of the conversation get quieter and more defeated as Dr. Finch spun his lies about my severe condition. When she hung up, she looked at me with pity. He says it's necessary. That night, my mother showed me the alternative she'd hinted at before. She led me to the basement, to a small closet I'd never noticed. The walls were covered in thick acoustic foam. There was a heavy bolt on the outside of the door. Dr. Finch agrees you need a therapeutic space to de-escalate, she said calmly. This is a quiet room. You can be as loud as you want in here. No one will hear you. She guided me inside. We'll start with an hour. The door shut. The bolt slid home. The darkness was absolute. The silence was so profound I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. I screamed until my throat was raw, but the sound just died against the foam. It was like I wasn't there at all. This became the new routine. School, headphones, medication, dinner, the quiet room. The time inside stretched longer and longer. I was losing myself. The combination of drugs, isolation, and sensory deprivation was erasing me. My mother was documenting it all as progress. One day in the school library, Miss Soto sat down across from me. She looked haunted. She slid a history book across the table. Inside the cover, a pencil line. She did this before. Another boy, Daniel. I found proof. The counselor is building a real case now. Hold on. She was gone before I could react. That night, my mother was on edge. The pills in my applesauce tasted stronger, more bitter. I fought to stay awake, hearing her on the phone with Dr. Finch. Yes, I think it's time. The residential facility you mentioned, Serenity Ridge. How soon? The last thing I remember is her silhouette in my doorway. Soon, sweetheart, she whispered. It will all be over soon. I woke up to being shaken. It was still dark. Get up. We're leaving, she hissed. She dragged my limp body to the car, shoving me in the back seat. I saw suitcases in the trunk. The headphones were already on, the white noise roaring. The drive was a blur of hazy landscapes and chalky-tasting crackers she'd hand back to me at rest stops. We arrived at dawn. Serenity Ridge Youth Center was surrounded by a high fence topped with barbed wire. It wasn't a school, it was a prison. A severe-looking woman in scrubs met us. Mrs. Chen, Dr. Finch called. We're all ready for him. Papers were signed. My mother knelt in front of me, her face a perfect mask of concern. Be a good boy. This is for the best. Then she got in her car and drove away without a backward glance. The woman, Nurse Helen, led me inside. The doors locked behind us with a deafening thud. Welcome to Serenity Ridge, she said, removing my headphones. The sudden silence made my head spin. My room had a bed bolted to the floor and a camera in the corner. This wasn't a treatment center. It was a place where kids were sent to disappear. Days bled into one another in a medicated haze. I shuffled from my room to the cafeteria to group therapy, where we sat in a circle and weren't allowed to speak. I thought about the note from Miss Soto. Hold on, but what was I holding on for? One night I heard sirens. Not close, but getting closer. Then shouting at the main entrance. My door burst open. It wasn't Nurse Helen. It was a new nurse, a younger woman I'd seen a few times. We have to go. Now. She grabbed my hand and pulled me into a hallway filled with chaos. Staff were shredding documents. Police officers were pouring through the main doors. She led me out a side exit, into a loading dock where an unmarked van was waiting. Mrs. Albright was in the driver's seat. Get in, Leo! As we sped away, I saw Dr. Finch and Nurse Helen being led out in handcuffs. Ms. Soto found him, Mrs. Albright explained, her voice shaking with adrenaline. Daniel, the boy your mother sent here 5 years ago. He aged out and was living in a shelter. He told us everything. It was enough for a warrant. My mother was arrested that morning. The police found the quiet room, the doctored audio files, the fake medical records. She never had hyperacusis. It was all a lie, a meticulously crafted excuse to control and torture me. Dr. Finch had been taking bribes for years from wealthy parents who wanted to get rid of their difficult children. I went to live with my Aunt Tessa, my mom's sister. She was loud and warm, and her house was always full of music. The recovery was slow. I had night terrors. Sudden noises still made me flinch. But for the first time, I had people who believed me. I had real therapy. I learned to use my voice again. At my mother's trial, I stood in the witness box and told the court everything. I looked right at her when I talked about the Serenity credits and the quiet room. She was sentenced to 25 years. Dr. Finch got 30. Serenity Ridge was shut down for good. Last week, I got a letter from Daniel. He's in college now, studying to be a social worker. He wanted to thank me. Your teacher told me you used Morse code, he wrote. You found a way to make a sound when they had taken everything else. My Aunt Tessa and I had steak for dinner that night, cooked medium rare. We talked and laughed, filling the quiet with the sound of our voices. I'm still here. I am still breathing. I am still making noise, and I am never ever going to be quiet again.